Hello, my name is Steven, and I'm the author of Vacant Steps, an epic fantasy novel published with Balestier Press coming out this September 2021. So, Vacant Steps, I can answer this question on three levels. The first is on a plot-based level. On a plot-based level, it's about three leaders on various sides of a war to take the Great Steppe, which is a large steppe or a plain that is inhabited by lots of nomadic tribes. And the story is about them questioning their loyalties and trying to decide what it is they're going to do about this war. Well, on the second level, it's also on a story-based level. It's the question of where's the soul of this work. I think that it's in the coming of age story. It's in three young leaders just on the cusp of adulthood, trying to figure out what kind of people they're going to be, what kind of leaders they're going to be, and what kind of decisions they're going to make up for the bad decisions that previous generations made. And since this is a story about empire, the third level is also, shall we say, the literary argument that this novel is trying to make. The literary argument that I'm trying to make is that the lives that these nomads are living is more free, more passionate, and more, shall we say, lively than the lives that the empire that's trying to conquer them is. And I think this is an extremely important point to me because many times we are fed kind of these narratives about what civilization looks like. And many times those notions of civilization are fed to us by the West. So I wanted to write a novel where it shows these people that have this so-called civilization, this empire with their, Roman Empire-like type of civilization. And I want to make these people out to be the bad guys, while the ones that are living in a, say, colloquially savage or colloquially primitive way, those are the good guys. Those are the ones that really know what life is about. And that's the third level of what Vacant Steps is about. So I love the characters of the story. They're what I think is the soul of Vacant Steps, so I'm very happy to answer this question. There are three of them: Sarah, Batu, and Errol. Out of the three, I probably feel the most affinity to Sarah. She's got social anxiety, she's got really these huge self-esteem issues, even though most of the time she is really the most competent one around. And her story is really about her struggling to have faith in herself and have faith in her leadership role. And, as an empire is coming in and trying to threaten to conquer her people, she needs to rally her people and she needs to save her people by doing the thing that she hates the most, talking to other people. Second character is Batu. And on the other hand, he's a bit of a complicated kind of persona within the nomads. He's the son of this, imposing and very famous war hero, this dude named Chinua, who's the leopard of the Amnu tribe. And all his life, Batu has been scared that he will only live in his father's shadow. And he doesn't want to be like his father. His father rules with an iron fist. He's making decisions that his father doesn't approve of. And Batu wants to carve his own path, but he's terrified the entire novel that he will never be able to escape the constraints and the legacy that his father has left for him. The third character is Errol, and Errol was an enigma to me. It took me a really long time to understand who Errol was. But I think that when it gets down to it, Errol is on the other side. Errol is a soldier in the Empire's army. And ostensibly, his goal is that he enlists in the expedition into the Great Steppe to conquer the Great Steppe because he wants to figure out what happened to his father, who was killed on the expedition beforehand. And he makes that decision, but really at its core, he's lying to himself because he's figured out that life in the city, life in the Empire, just isn't for him. And he's out on an adventure to figure out where he truly belongs. And that's what I mean when I said earlier about the coming-of-age story, because ththese three characters, they're all on the cusp of adulthood, and they all go on these different, beautiful, and wonderful journeys throughout the novel that I'm very proud of. But I think that what's at the core of the three of them is they're all trying to figure out what kind of person they're going to be. And the conflict is that there's a war in the background, so they each need to figure out quick, or else people are going to die. I don't think I'm like most fantasy writers. I don't like writing, 10-page long histories of the politics of this country. I don't like writing about, all these intricate details about the religion, about who's who in the political landscape. That kind of stuff gives me a headache. So if you notice, there's not actually a lot of that in Vacant Steps. What I am interested though is what are the details of the way people live in this place, in this world. And I think that that's really at the soul of what I think good world building in fantasy is. Because, you can have all these pages and pages of world building, but I don't think it matters unless you're able to tell me what the sun feels like on the skin as you're walking through this world, what the wind feels like, what it smells like when you walk into a plane, right? Those are the things that I think are really important in Vacant Steps, and that's what I did a lot of research on. And I think that that's also, it goes to the core of the plot, right? Because, all the different nomadic tribes in the Great Steppe, they are involved in very different things and they have very different goals. But what they all share in common is this love for the place that they live, love for the wide open skies, the empty hills, the howling wind. And I will be frank and I will say that this kind of world was not natural to me, right? I am from two bustling cities, Manila and Singapore. And so, what I'm familiar with is steel and glass, not wide open skies, right? So it took me a really long time to research to do this novel. I watched documentaries, I learned how to skin a deer, I learned how to take care of a horse, all these ridiculous things. I even went on like Google Earth visits to Mongolia just to see what it was like to live there. And I think that more than just the research, it also took me a lot of time to transport myself into the headspace of a nomad, right? Because these people live very different lives from me. They don't take public transport. They don't, ride lifts to go up to their rooms. They don't have a set schedule every day. And I think that it's about that learning to inculcate and learning what it really is like to live that way is at the soul of this book and at the soul of the world building of this novel. So a bit of background on me. I'm an anthropology major. And in a sentence, that means that I am interested in the way that people live and the way that they behave in social contexts. One of the most important things that I've learned from this discipline is that you should never look down on the way other people live, no matter how unfamiliar it may be to us at first glance. And I think that a lot of people will, for example, look at, say, indigenous or native people and think that they can impose their own view of how to live on these people. But I think that's exactly the wrong way to go about it. Vacant Steps is an argument that says that we should step back and we shouldn't impose our own views on these people because the way they live is a decision that they can make, that they should make on their own. And I think that we should also do away with our own ideas and question our own ideas of how we should live, because many times those notions are fed to us by other people and by people in power. I fervently believe that characters are everything when you're writing fiction. Everything I think that I write exists only to deepen character and tell us more about the kind of people they are. So let's say you got a cool magic system. Cool. But tell me what that tells me about the characters. Maybe you have a big theme, like government surveillance. Great, but who are the characters involved in this story about government surveillance? Maybe you have an intricate history, a complicated religion, and kind of this fascinating history. Character, character, character. Much of the time, books allow us to connect with people who are very different and at times very far away from us. And yet, through books, we are able to learn what kind of people they're like, and we love these people, right? We read these novels and we fall in love with their characters, we fall in love with their worlds, even though we've never met these people in real life. And I think that that is the magic of books. And that's why whenever I'm writing, my creative process usually involves me really taking the time to listen to these characters, to let them guide the plot, let them guide the story, and tell me things that only they know. And I think that when I listen closely enough, they tell me things about myself too. And to end, I hope that through reading Vacant Steps, learning about these characters can also teach you something about yourself as well. Thank you very much.